Okay, now, from the beginning.
Hit it, boys.
There's a drunk on the corner where the big boys play, where the whiskey's running like the rivers, but they all never come for the booze and bass. I'm the one, I'm the lady that'll rock this place. That'll rock this place. That'll rock this place. Rock this place. Rock this place. Rock this place.
Welcome to Winning in the Workplace, where we help executives, managers, and supervisors become great leaders, become more aligned and more collaborative with each other and across departments. I am your host, Maurice Velasquez, and we are broadcasting this podcast on Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitter, Apple, iTunes, and the many other platforms. To find me on these platforms, simply type in Maurice Velasquez or type in Winning in the Workplace. And thank you again for joining me this week. Visit me at my website at mauricetraining.com. There, the first thing to do is to download my 2 short books. First one is Journeying Beyond the Storm, and then the blue book, How to Build High Performance Team. Then register yourself and your team of leaders and your team of managers to my 12-week course on how to get out of storming and how to build and how to rebuild more aligned and more cohesive leadership management approach. Sign up and register to mauricetraining.com. I'm going to start a new series of them in late July. Today, we have a great show. I have Jim Nalley on the studio with me. Jim and I met several months ago, and we've worked on several projects together. We've become great colleagues and friends. Today, he's going to talk to us about a tough topic. It's how us older leaders need to pretty much chill out and lead younger players better. Ouch. He's already warned me that he's going to say some very uncomfortable things, but hey, I think we need it. So Jim's going to talk to us in a couple minutes. And in the meantime, I want to run a couple thoughts with you about a couple of other topics. It keeps coming up back a lot, and I like to remind everybody that as managers, we have to be very cognizant that we have an audience, that not every audience is the same. When you put on a play at a theater, you have to recognize every night's not going to be the same. It's a different audience. Now, you don't make every adjustment for the audience, but you do have to make some adjustments. As managers, that's a much different scenario. And that is because your audience are your employees. So when you have different employees, you have to be able to manage them differently because they all come in different behaviors, different attitudes, different personalities, different styles. And we have to be very cognizant of what those major adjustments have to be and knowing how to relate and connect better with them, how to gain the value and the strength that they bring to the table and where they fit in to cover or make up for our weaknesses. So the 4 areas that I always encourage managers to be very not only cognizant and aware of, but very good at are these areas. Number 1, personality differences. You have to get really well versed on the different personalities, their strengths and weaknesses, what makes one, what drives one, the fears, what causes some people to behave a different way. So personalities is critically important. The second area is that of decision-making styles. Not everybody takes the same path, but there's about 5 to 6 different paths to decision making, and the different personalities use those paths differently. So we have to know what those are. That falls also into what you hear people saying, we have a different communication style. So communication styles and decision making styles tend to be the same. So that's the second area. The third area is the one we hear a lot about, but again, we don't spend a lot of time learning it enough to impact and benefit the relationship, and that is birth order. How we were raised has an incredible impact on how we become young adults and older people. Okay. We oftentimes don't forget those patterns, and we pick up certain patterns and behaviors and attitudes because of their birth order. Someone being an only child has different experiences than a person who's a middle child or a last child or an older child. Okay, we have to know what they are. And again, what are the strengths and weaknesses? So when you meet people and you're interviewing people and you ask certain questions, you can get an idea of what you're going to get. But you have to be careful that we don't put people and pigeonhole them and say, oh, well, this person's this person. No, you basically learn that they're probably this, probably that. You can learn from and make better interactions if you understand the background. Okay. The fourth area is what Jim's going to dive into with us today, and that is that of generational differences. I'm very excited about it. I do not want to steal his show. So, Jim, you still in the show? You still in the studio? Everybody, come on and bring him in. Hey. I love the hat. Love the hat, man. What's up? What's up with that?
Me look young. Makes me look younger, right? That's what I need to shoot for. Look younger. I've been outside working. I had to put on a hat.
I think we just lost 80% of the younger crowd. Okay.
He's going to go.
Hey, take yourself away. I told you to shave so we'd look younger. Then, of course, I left you high and dry because I didn't shave. And then you show up with that hat. Hold on. Let me, hold on a second. Hold on.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. There you go. So now we just lost the other 20%.
The other 20%.
Yeah, we look really young and connected, and we're not seeming our age. I didn't have any. What are you wearing there?
They're not suspenders. They just kind of look like it. You know,
those aren't suspenders?
No, that's just the shirt. Just the shirt. This looks like suspenders.
That's even worse, man.
It's being a farmer without really being a farmer. That's the key.
That's great. Well, I'm going to take my hat off because I'm going to try to get some of them back. All right. No, hey,
you got the other 20% back. Okay. Well, and you made some great points there, Mo. I tell you, when I was an officer in the Army, when I first went in, I was 22 years old. And I'm dealing with folks who are E7s, E8s. They've been in the Army for 20 years, and they're 45, 46. I'm a 22-year-old. I'm an officer, and I'm supposed to be their boss.
Wow.
That's really when you learn, there's a generational difference, but you need to pay attention, and we can all learn from each other. That's the great thing about it.
Yeah, no, I am so glad that you talked to me about doing this, and then I reached out to you to do the podcast. I love that you picked this topic. I'm excited to dive into it. So hey, thanks for telling me about that. So, all right, so let me do the proper intro, everybody. This is Jim Nalley. Jim and I have known each other for about 7-8 months. We've had an enormous amount of great conversations in those 7-8 months. It's been great. A very seasoned, experienced COO. I'm going to let him tell us his bio in just a second. But I think the world of him. He's just in this short time we've met and we've interacted and worked on things. I've learned a lot from him. And so I want to encourage you to listen to the show. Here's an example of him, an older person teaching a younger person. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, here it is. There it comes. Okay. Got it. Now that you're making you feel better and me feel worse. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah,
I just broke rule number 1 of every podcast. Do not make fun of your guest. Okay. So, hey, man, great. All right, Jim, tell us about yourself. I'm going to ask Jim to tell us his contact information. Hire this guy. He does fractional COO. He is fantastic on a project basis, on coming in even remotely, and then just bringing it on board full time for either a period or extended. I really promote him. Jim, tell us about yourself. Who are you, man?
Well, look, I've got a storied background. I'll just say it like that. And it's a longer background. Like I said, I went in the Army after college, long time ago as an officer, first Gulf War veteran kind of guy, done that, left the military as a captain, went to work for a communications company in DSC Communications, which was bought by Alcatel. Had over 700 employees when I left Alcatel and started our own thing with a little company called Goodman Networks. And we did contracting. I was president of operations there. We had over 1,000 employees. We installed cell towers throughout the country. Then I branched out and started doing my own thing. I had a company called M-Finders, which was one of the first Apple Watches, location company. And we could remotely activate it. And this was in 2008 that we started that. And you could remotely activate it and the location would be sent out. And it was about finding folks with Alzheimer's and children with autism and things like that.
Well, that's great.
And then I did that for a few years. I sold that one. And then we started another company locating trailers and things of that nature. And that one got caught by COVID. And so, I mean, that one kind of struggled with that. But, I have a little peach orchard up here in Arkansas, and we work on that too. But it's time to get back into the game a little bit. That's why I reached out to you and started talking to you. And it's been great ever since. It's been great.
It really has been. Thanks for reaching out and the relationship that we built. I really appreciate it. I'm very honored and grateful that I could introduce you to my crowd, and hopefully, it benefits everyone. All right. So great. Let's dive in. The topic, I don't know what to title this. I've thought, how to manage young people. And sometimes I think the title should be is old folks, chill out. That almost feels, and I don't want to steal your thunder, but it almost feels like that's what this topic has had to become. So the floor is yours. Talk to us about it.
And that's a great point, Mo, because what I look at is we don't want to be that old dude that sits up there and say, get off my lawn. That's not, we dealt with that. We dealt with it because, my father and his father, they looked at us like we were horrible individuals and didn't know anything, right? And lazy and all those things. We've got to understand that this younger crowd, they're smarter than we are. More than
That's very true. That is very true.
When it comes to technology, things of that nature, how many people can actually say that? And I was in that business.
Right.
And, it took forever to get a cell phone in the company. Right. We started with pagers. Well, there went 1/3 of the audience. They're like, what's a pager?
That's right.
They didn't know what that was. So they've never not had a cell phone.
I remember when at our company, they were introducing us to email, and then they had to give us a little short course on what an attachment was.
Yes.
And the whole concept of check your email became an issue. We're timing ourselves, but that's the reality is that the young folks, they've already come in with that from junior high school or even younger.
Yeah. And that's the great thing. And that's why they're fun to be around too, because they really know a lot of things and you can learn from them. But on the flip side of that, if we're smart, we can teach them too, because we know some things that they don't know as well.
That's right. Yeah.
And it's got to be a two-way street. I think many older managers just look down on them and they say, well, they're just lazy or they won't do it or what have you. And what I've learned in dealing with them is if you're upfront with them, you tell them, this is what I need, and this is when I need it, they'll always get it done.
I agree.
It may not be the way you wanted them to do it, or if, hey, I'll do that tonight because I'm going to do this right now and I'll get to that later. They're very cognizant what they need to do. They just do it on their own terms.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that I like that early on in this conversation, you brought up the whole issue of the attitude of how we look down on them. And you and I talked a little bit about before that I'm almost at I'm done. I'm really done with that attitude and joining in those conversations and thinking that there's value to it, because I've really seen a lot of damage. And I'm sorry to say I've participated in that, of just looking down at them. I am who I am today professionally and in my success because I've always had a mentor, an older person that became my help, my guide, of formal or informal mentors, and they never looked down on me. They never treated me that way, and somehow we've taken it upon ourselves to saying that, yeah, we can look down on them and make sure that they know we're looking down on them. I mean, isn't that what you're pointing out? We have to stop that attitude.
We really do. And I think it's one of my missions is to tie these two together. I'm in a leadership role. I want to tie that mentor mentality that you and I were beneficiary of, right?
Right.
And we need to turn that around and be mentors for them too.
That's exactly right.
That's exactly what we need to be doing, because all of the things we complain about, in reality, it's our fault.
Ooh, man. I mean, so see, now I'm sitting and saying, brother, preach it, man. Well, first of all, the behaviors that we're critiquing, who taught them those things? We think they're pampered. Who pampered them? It was us.
Yes.
And we're the ones that got them all those trophies.
Mm-hmm. And the helicopter. We were helicopter parents.
And then they grow up learning those things, and we're the first ones to throw it in their face and say, you guys are this way. There's this video. It's too long to show. There's a video out there. I'll send it to you and I can post it later. It's a 9-minute video of every 10 seconds, 15 seconds, they show a bunch of millennials or younger crowd, and they're, acknowledging the fact of their idiosyncrasies, and then they circle back around to them and they say, well, yeah, we're the ones that started those two ugly wars and have started this whole thing, war and terror. And I don't know, we're not good at controlling this thing of drugs. And they start pointing out things that wasn't their fault, but they're taking it upon it. And then they go, yeah, in 2008, I guess it was us and our generation that destroyed the economy and, forced so many people to come back from retirement. Yeah, I guess we really are a really irresponsible generation, aren't we? Mm. And the point is very clear that, wait a minute, they've inherited a lot of what we have messed up on, and now they're having to fix it. Your thoughts?
Well, and that's it. And it's our generation that has done 32 trillion in debt.
That's very true. That is very true.
It's our generation. We straddled them, unfortunately, with that. And we've also straddled them with the label of being, they're just a bunch of lazy kids. Oh, they don't do anything. And
right.
They just do it on their time.
Right.
We want to do it. And
no, I agree. I think what you're calling for, let's call it, I think it's a level of humility and kindness that we need to bring to the table. Okay.
I love that.
Our mentors were different. They were different toward us because they weren't haughty towards us. And we've got to show the same thing to them if we want them to work with us and take the things we want. I guess for us to be worth being listened to, because if somebody looked down upon me, I wouldn't listen to them.
And that's it. And we need to become friends for them. When we're friends, we can be better mentors. And when we're mentors, we can be better friends too. And
that's good.
And we can just get closer. And because what we've failed is to help that generation. And we really need to take a step back, get humble. Like you said, it wasn't them that started the two wars. It wasn't them that did all of this. We did this. We have straddled them with so much burden in their lifetimes. We've got to help them find a way out of it. And
that's good.
Us too. And they will.
And they will. And I think they will. I think a lot of, they have a different work ethic. And yet some of that work ethic difference really shines back on us. For example, that they don't put up with whole bunch. They take a job and 6 weeks later, they're quitting. Yes or no?
That's right.
And you ask them why, and they have their reasons. Okay. And it's usually, they're not going to put up with what you and I put up with. Within 6 weeks, you and I were hired to jobs and we could tell it's a toxic environment. They really aren't going to live up to their promises. The managers treat us bad. And what were you and I taught? Hang in there, hold tight, it'll come. And we chase this carrot. And you and I know those carrots never arrived, but we hung it out because we somehow found our way. They don't put up with that. Yeah. Now, is that wrong? Wouldn't you jump? I mean,
yeah, and that's exactly it. And we were also taught, well, you need to be the first one in the office and the last one to leave. Well, they're taught, stay there until you get the job done and then go home, or just stay home and get the job done.
So now we don't want clock workers, right?
That's right.
But yet we're the ones saying you have to work for the clock.
Yeah.
And what they're saying is, no, how about you pay me a job? I get my job done. You reward me with some extra hours. You're happy. I'm happy. And I get what I want. You get, no, you have to stay here those extra 45 minutes, that extra 2 hours, and just be here and clock in. And then we wonder why the morale's differently.
Yeah.
And why can't we get them to be more engaged? We're not listening, huh?
Yeah. And that's it. You and I were taught you show up to work. You get there early. You stay until the boss leaves.
Oh,
remember that?
Oh, remember? Man, yeah. So, what's that called? I workers?
I workers. Where'd they go? Where are they? Such the wrong attitude. And,
correct.
And every time I'm in a new leadership role now, and I've done this for the last 20 years, 10 years, 20 years, is I'd say, look, just get the job done. I don't care what time you show up, what you're doing, as long as the job gets accomplished.
Basically, leadership has had to change because of this, right?
That's absolutely true. Because leadership used to be, you do what I tell you to, and I'm going this way. That used to be what leadership was.
Correct.
Leadership today has to be a buy-in kind of thing, because you're going to lead and you want the company to go in this direction, but you have to have all your followers coming with you, right?
How did you put it? I hadn't heard it like that. It has to be a buy-in type of a
buy-in. Right.
I would dare say then that is why this is not attractive to older managers, because that requires more effort to be that good of a manager than to just give orders, direct people, and just watch the clock.
Yeah, because that's easy, right? You just do X, Y, and Z and have it done by 4. See you later. That's easy.
Let me ask you some questions in here. You may feel like I'm challenging. I'm not. I'm hearing some of our listeners, and they're probably saying, Marty's asking this, asking this. So let me play a little bit hardball here, okay? What if the job, though, that I'm hiring for really requires a person to be at the office? Not all jobs are the same. I mean, what about those scenarios where I don't have a problem having a hybrid workplace? Some work here, some work remote, some in and out. As long as everyone's doing their job, you're saying that should be the determining factor, not whether they're clocking in, is whether they're doing their job. But aren't there positions that just really you need to be at the office physically for whatever reason?
Absolutely. And I think, okay, so let's take retail, for example, right?
Okay. Yeah.
When you work retail, they have to be there, right? They're customer service focused. They, Dillard's or what have you, Nordstrom's, people are there. And you have to have them on the floor doing things. You can still motivate them through different types of ways. And what I'm getting to is, you motivate an individual, a younger individual, by being willing to do what they're going to do. I've always said that if I'm not willing to do that job, why would I ask somebody to do that job?
To be a real model, to be a real, don't just pretend that I'm going to go about what you said. I really want you to exemplify the behavior you're asking me to do.
That's exactly right. Because if I'm not willing to get in there and, let's say, fold shirts, I can sit there and have a conversation with Joe while I'm folding shirts and get to know him a little better, find out what motivates him, what his thought process is, why he took this job, why he likes this job, why he doesn't like this job. You can find out more from being around them working than just, okay, I'm going to sit you across the desk. Now let's have a counseling session on what's going on. How do you feel? What do you think you're doing right? That's not the way they interact.
So again, going back to how you and I heard it, is you do what the bosses and what the company wants you to do, not necessarily because they're doing it or not doing it. You just obey. You just do what they want you to do. The younger employees, the younger crowd, they're saying, no, we're not going to do that. I'd rather leave than to pretend that I'm going to be the one that does it, while my boss and other people aren't going to be held to the same standard. And they don't want to live in a culture like that.
That's a great way to sum that up, because they don't have that over sense of loyalty the way you and I were brought up.
Right.
They don't have that. And that's okay, because that just makes it better for me, because they're going to challenge me on things. And if I take that in the right way, the company's going to get better, because they're going to say, hey, are you sure we want to do that? I don't think that.
Again, you're hitting some tough stuff here, Jim, because you just said we know they're going to challenge us. And again, as the old folks here in the room, I really wonder whether we're honest with ourselves as to whether we really want folks to disagree with us. We constantly say we don't want people to be yes men. We want you to be able to speak up. We want you to be able to come in and think outside the box. We want you to come in and give your ideas. And no sooner do they come in, we challenge them and get them to be quiet because they're disagreeing all the time.
Yes.
So it's kind of like that Cat Stevens song, ever since I was a little kid, I was told to talk. And then when I talked, I was told to be quiet. I mean, we do this to them constantly. So what is it? What's wrong with us, man? Why can we get it straight? Do we want a disagreement, or do we really ultimately just want to manage by dictates?
Well, and that's what we've got to learn. Because we have to learn that we can't manage by dictates. It'll fail now. With that generation, that will just fall apart. You'll lose every employee you've got. Yeah. You can't manage by dictates. Now, there are some things that, hey, we need to get this software out in 3 weeks.
That's clarity. I think what they're constantly asking for is they're wanting clarity. Okay? Mm-hmm. Stop beating around the bush like you guys like to talk to each other.
Yes.
Be direct, be upfront. Don't beat around the bush. If I'm not doing a good job, don't grandpa me. Just tell me. Yeah. If you need it done by Friday, fine. But clarity is what I think they're asking for, and they don't put up with vagueness.
That's the right way of saying it. What's great about them, I'll be honest with you, I love them, is they'll take it home and they'll just sit on their computer all night long. I've had programmers do this with their Mountain Dews or whatever they're drinking. Know what energy drink that is. And they'll just pound it out all night long. The next thing you know, they come in, it's done. Like, hey, this is awesome. I love you.
Right. And then we don't want to reward them with take the rest of the day off because they got to clock in and be able to say you have to work till 5.
Yeah. And that's the craziness about it. I'm like,
I know. Right. So let me ask you another what I think is a little bit, I don't want to softball you. I don't want to throw a couple curveballs. All right. What about this one? There's a big push from them that, look, I'll get my work done. I have extra hours. Let me take time off. Add those hours. In other words, if I'm doing a great job, if I'm doing my work and I can finish by 11 o'clock on Friday, let me take the rest of Friday off. As a matter of fact, how about I work my tail off and get everything done by Thursday, and then Friday you give me off? And somehow we have a real hard time with that because we almost kind of like, I hate to say this, but it feels like almost the old Puritans. We worry about if someone's having too much fun. You know, what are they doing? What are they working on? They're not here. I can't see what they're doing. So they have to be in the office. But isn't that the negotiation they're striving for? Reward me with time so I can go do other things outside of the workplace.
Because they want to go out. They want to, hey, they're young. When we were young, we liked to go out. I still like to go out and have a good time.
But we couldn't. They wouldn't let us because we
wouldn't let us because we had to clock in and clock out.
we didn't know how to argue like they know how to argue.
That's it.
And you know what? We didn't know how to walk away. We did not know how to walk away. My godson got a job, and I coached him to it, and he went and got the job, and he calls me up like 2 weeks later and says, hey, I quit. I'm like, what? Why did you quit? And he says, well, and then he started telling me all the reasons why he quit. And I said, I think I would have quit. And see, I was going to pull this one on. Yeah, just wait till we have kids. I knew he had just got married. His wife was pregnant. He knew the bills were coming. So he knew he had all that on him. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And then I just quickly went to, well, dude, that's pretty bold. His words were just prophetic. He basically said, yeah, I don't want to put up with that in my life. There's got to be companies out there doing things right. And I'm like, whoa. I watched him a month and a half, 2 months later. He got a job about a mile away from my office. And in the interview, he interviewed them just like they interviewed him. Yeah. Because his attitude is, I'm not going to come in and put up with a different story than all the bill of goods you promised to me during the interview process. And they'll call it and they'll leave. That's honorable, isn't it?
It is. It's very honorable. And you know what I love about them is their ability to be honest with themselves. He was going to be miserable. Yes. And he knew he was going to be miserable. And he's like, I can't do it. We lied to ourselves for how many years? Doing jobs that we hated with bosses we didn't like. And we did it because, well, I got to think of the kids, or I got to think of the mortgage, all those things. These kids are brave, bold, and they know exactly what they want, and they're honest with themselves.
Tell me a little bit about how should we talk with them, or how should we interact with them? What are some differences?
Well, I think the biggest thing that we need to know is they will be direct, and we can be direct and not hurt their feelings.
But be professional about it.
Be professional about it. And everybody says they're soft. Everybody says, oh, they're a bunch of softies. They're snowflakes or whatever they call them, right?
I hate that.
They're not. Now, what they are is very open to new ideas. We were very closed to new ideas. And that's cultural. That's the difference between us and them, and that's okay. And we just need to learn to be a little more open, and we can listen to them and we can learn from them. And I think what we have to do is just interact with them on a respect level versus, well, I'm smarter than you are, and you just need
to get the job?
Understand that you don't know anything. Because that's the way we normally treat them.
All right, so you talked about respect, talking to them differently. Their values regarding time and being away from the office, that's also very different, okay? What are some things like in problem solving or in decision making? How do they view things perhaps to how we view, and what are some pitfalls there?
Well, we grew up doing meetings every day, meetings all the time, right?
Right.
First job out of the military, we had a meeting at 7 o'clock every morning. 7 a.m. You go in there and you spend 2.5, 3 hours going through all these things that happened the night before. Hated it. It was worthless to me. You know, it was zero value. What they've learned to do is, hey, email me what those problems are. I'll research it and then I'll deal with it, right? The way they make decisions is Google. They've had Google forever. They're going to do fast research. They do it very quickly. And that way you make decisions for them too quickly. They don't want to spend a lot of time sitting around a conference table talking about it. They say, okay, what's the problem? Let's go research the problem. Here's our 5 solutions to the problem. Pick one. I love them for that because they'll bring, when I'm boss or when I am the boss, they'll bring me 5 different solutions to one problem. Usually I'm just looking for 2, but they will overkill it because their research ability is so much better than ours was.
Now with GPT and artificial intelligence, that's just going to be 10 times. So if we don't take advantage of that, first of all, they were faster with us at research anyway. And now they know how to use AI better than we do. If we don't know how to require more work from them and be clear as to what they're even going to get more bored with is because we're not using the technology that they know it's out there.
That's right. And that's the thing. And we have to make fast decisions. They'll bring us quick solutions. We just have to pick one and help them get to that point. And even ask them, what do you think you would do? That's a great way of getting them involved. It goes right back to that buy-in thing of leadership. They buy in, they're going to follow. And that's the way that works. It can't be just, well, I'm going to do this. And then they'll say, it wasn't one of our solutions, and we don't think that's going to work. But you just went against everything they brought to you. You lost all respect from that team then.
Before coming on board, you talked to me about at the very core of this is keeping the customer first and making that the objective.
Yeah.
Expound on that.
Well, I think the thing that we grew up in a time of customer service. We did, because everybody was vying for the same dollar. Now with Amazon and all those things, you've destroyed a lot of that customer service facing that. But what I think's coming, I think the young generation, those millennials, are really going to bring it back. And the reason I say that is because they desire something like that, because they're going to be the ones with money eventually here, right?
You're right. In 10 years, this game's going to change, and we're going to suffer whether we were nice to them and kind to them or not. We're going to pay for it.
They're the ones that are going to have the money, right?
Right.
Because right now it's us, and we have disposable income, and they're trying to pay rent, and the rent's gone up. All those things have happened.
Correct.
But when you talk to them where they live about, hey, my apartment complex offers great customer service. They know these things. They are growing up in the realm of 4 and 5-star ratings and writing reviews online and all of those things. What I'm saying is that if you put your customer first and you teach them that, if you're in a position as a leader and you have customers and you teach the millennials about that, they understand what a 5-star rating means. They understand all of those things.
Because they were raised that way.
They were raised that way. They are going to bring customer service back, even though it's suffered over the last 10 years.
No, that's good. We're on the last lap, so I want you to think of what the biggest takeaways you would tell managers, especially of those full fokies. But first, I want to show the video that you and I talked about and that we shared with each other. All right, so let's take a look at this, all right?
Yeah.
Did I get the job?
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because you're a baby boomer and I'm a millennial.
Well, Melanie, I am overqualified for this job.
I don't know where you got this. We don't do paper applications.
I made it. I don't do the internet.
Okay. That is the 3rd time you have said that this interview, and it also says so on this homemade job application.
There you go, champ.
I don't know what this is for.
Don't you need a trophy anytime you anything?
Oh, it's on. How'd you get here? Horse?
I drove my car. I own it. After 8 more payments. How'd you get here?
I took an Uber.
You do not know what that is. I bet you're a big...
Yeah, because I'm not a monster. Your generation is afraid of black people.
Your generation thinks you are black people.
Oh, word. Look at who you guys voted for.
Yeah, that's right. I voted.
Touche.
This is the only way you'll ever own a house.
Learning how to text is the only way you'll ever communicate with your son. So,
All right, guys. Who took my Sheryl Crow album?
Gen X. You know what? You're hired.
I quit.
Dad.
Before we were using
Isn't that great? The role reversal. I thought it was hilarious. It's dad all along.
split between work and managing work. Go Monday.com just to keep following management.
Oh, that's
Great. That's great. All right. So talk to us. What are the biggest takeaways? You're talking to a bunch of managers over the age of 45, 50 years old, and we have younger employees. What would you tell us? You have the floor. You have the last word. What are the biggest takeaways? And hit hard. My crowd loves it. Hey, and the young folks listening to this, they'll appreciate oldies talking to oldies about the reality of this. So swing away, man.
Number one, listen. If you're a manager, a leader, and you don't listen, then you're going to fail miserably. I mean, one of the best things my dad ever told me, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Work on it. That's the thing. And the other one is don't dismiss them. We are so rude sometimes. We just, whatever.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about. And we just dismiss them. And we can't do that. They're smart. They're different, but they're smart. And, and we dismiss them because of some crazy view they have about some cultural issue. That's just as bad as dismissing them for understanding a calculus problem. They are smart. We just need to pay attention to them, give them a listen. And the other part is, if you're going to be a leader, you better be a damn good follower. Because if you can't follow, you can't lead. I see so many people, they come out of college, they're older and they think, well, I've been this for 50 years and I know exactly what I'm doing. Well, you haven't been in the trenches forever. That's one of the great things about having a little farm out here. It humbles you.
That's
it
good,
will
man.
humble.
That's good.
And you have to be humble in today's marketplace. You can't think you know everything because you don't. Right. And there's no way you can.
And I'm sorry, I'm going to break my second rule. Never make fun of your guest. Have the last word with having a better hat, man. Don't forget to wear it. See, my dog chewed on it. I can't wear it because my dog chewed on it,
I love that we're two old dudes sitting on the porch. Get off my lawn, kid.
Talking about how to be great managers to younger people. All right, so we got to get them on board and tell them, and then laugh at us and tell us where we got it all wrong. So, hey, man, Jim, really great topic. I know we left a ton that could have been said, so I want you back. I'd love for you to come back, expound on this. Jim, tell us how to get in contact with you. And again, all of those of you that are interested, please reach out to Jim, anything you need of him. Tell us how to get in contact with you.
You can email me anytime you want. I've got a LinkedIn profile out there too, so you can go to that. But Jim Nalley 2002@gmail.com. Give me a shout. Email me if you need something. And hey, I'm going to give you my cell number. You ready? 530-592-9344.
Wonderful. Jim,
get in contact.
Thank you very much. Good talk. Hopefully my people will give you some coffee afterwards. Likewise, we'll stay in touch. Okay. All right. Thanks, Jim. I appreciate it. Remember, my podcast is every Friday at 8:15 Central. If you want to be a guest on the show, go to my podcast page and fill out the guest form. I would love to have you on the show. The page is winningintheworkplacepodcast.com. Again, winningintheworkplacepodcast.com. Oh, one more thing. You know that you and your team do need to become more cohesive, more aligned. You know that your meetings are not as effective as they should. You know that after those meetings, everyone goes into 15 different directions. You got to stop that. That's a very significant symptom of storming. You have to get aligned. You got to get out of storming. So take my 12-week course, you and your team, private sessions for 12 weeks, 2 hours each week. It's fantastic. That's where I show you how to get out of storming, how to build and how to rebuild a more aligned and cohesive and collaborative leadership and management team approach. So email me or go to my website, sign up, text me about it. I'll get you in. We got a lot of spots left open. We're starting in late June, and we have a whole new series of slots open in July. Go to mauricetraining.com or shoot me an email. Remember, at the core of leadership is managers and leaders showing a united front with each other in front of the rest of the organization. You have to be on the same page. You got to speak in a unified message. Being a cohesive team, that level of alignment, y'all, is the difference and the competitive edge. Your competitors are not aligned. They're wasting a lot of time getting product, getting services out. You can make a difference by simply tweaking and fine-tuning your internal alignment. So get out of storming, get aligned, get the bull, get the training. Come join me. Okay. By aligning well is how you and your teams can win in the workplace. Thanks for joining me. See you next week.
Bye.